So you want to buy a soccer club. I'm sure you can afford it, but first you need to stop calling that sport soccer. After that, you can simply visit the website of a certified British broker, just as Ryan Reynolds did, who browsed through a few listings and bought a Welsh football club for $2.5 million. Despite the club being 156 years old, it was on the brink of bankruptcy and playing in the 5th tier of English football, the lowest professional level. 5 years later, the club was already worth $500 million, and he achieved this thanks to a business model that doesn't exist in American sport. You can buy a football club in Europe to suit any budget and make a very serious amount of money doing it. Small, semi-professional English or Italian clubs with a century of history are sold for as little as $1 million. Sheffield United was recently sold for around $100 million. And a top club like Chelsea is already worth more than $5 billion. American football works differently. Major League Soccer is a closed league where you cannot buy a team on the open market. The league itself grants new teams, for which you have to pay an expansion fee. In 2007, this cost $10 million. Today, new clubs join for $500 million. That is precisely why David Beckham's Inter Miami, which entered the business under the old contract for $25 million, was valued at $1.45 billion in February 2026, making it the most valuable MLS club in history. At the very top are clubs that are not for sale at all. Real Madrid and Barcelona are owned by their own supporters, who pay annual membership fees as members of the club, which is legally classified as a cooperative. But regardless of whether you spend $1 million or $1 billion, each of these clubs is funded by the same 4 sources of income. And if things go wrong, by the end of the second season, you'll have lost everything you've invested. But don't worry, we're here to make money. As for spending it, that's what your children are for. So before you buy a team to make profit from it, you need to decide which of these 4 sources will be your main one. Commercial deals bring in the most. Shirt sponsorship, contracts with Nike or Adidas, merchandise sales, and stadium naming rights. For a small club in the lower leagues, this amounts to several $100,000 a year from local sponsors. For an average second-tier club, this can already amount to contracts worth tens of millions. Real Madrid earned €594 million from this last season. The second largest source of revenue is television rights. The English Premier League distributes $4.5 billion amongst its 20 teams from UK broadcasting rights alone. The team that finishes bottom of the Premier League receives around $130 million simply because it was shown on television. That is why there is such fierce competition for a place in the top flight. Or perhaps because it's a sport. But we're here for the money. And if there's one thing people are always after, it's yours. They don't start with your bank account. They start with your personal information. Your name, address, phone number, even your browsing habits, sitting in hundreds of databases you've never heard of, sold to whoever pays. That's exactly what scammers and identity thieves use to find their next target. Incogni gets it out. It finds the data brokers and people search sites quietly profiting off your information and forces them to delete it, automatically and again every time it comes back. Its custom removals feature even lets you send them a specific site, and a real privacy expert takes care of it. Try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to incogni.com/millionaire or scan this QR code and use Millionaire for 60% off. Your club, meanwhile, still has 2 more ways to make you money. The third source of revenues is European competitions. The UEFA Champions League distributes $2.5 billion amongst the participating clubs every year. Just qualifying for the group stage brings a club $22 million. The champion receives $100. Without European competition, even a well-known club's budget won't balance. Atletico Madrid failed to qualify in the 2024 season and ended the financial year with a deficit of $90 million. And the fourth source of income is something American sport lacks entirely: the sale of players between clubs for money. In the NBA or NFL, a player can be traded, not sold. In football, this is a significant item in the annual budget. A small club buys a 17-year-old for $200,000, trains him for 3 years, and sells him for $8 million. A mid-table club buys him for $8 million, turns him into a star, and sells him for $100 million. Benfica in Portugal has built its entire business model on precisely this. In 2025, it sold a defender for $75 million, one it had bought just 2 years earlier for $4 million. That's more than Inter Miami earned in a year with Messi in the squad. But for your future club, you'll need to find less obvious sources of income. Most big clubs only use their stadium on match days around 20 or 30 times a year. For the remaining 340 days, the stadium stands empty. Real Madrid decided this was a waste and rebuilt the Santiago Bernabeu for $1.6 billion, complete with a retractable pitch, a retractable roof, and its own shopping center inside. Now the stadium brings in $1 million a day. It hosts concerts and corporate events, but most importantly, people spend money there, and the football club gets a share. Stadium tours and the museum alone brought Real Madrid $57 million per season. But your best investment will be setting up your own academy. It could be the perfect place for your son to finally get involved in something meaningful. Running a major club's academy costs $15 million a year. Manchester City built its academy for $250 million and recouped the cost by selling players who never once featured for the first team. Smaller English clubs receive compensation from big clubs for developing young players. If a 12-year-old from your academy gets signed by Manchester United, you can receive up to $50,000 for every year he trained with you. Now for the main point, if you're a businessman and revenue is your top priority, your main focus should not be on the quality of your team's play or winning titles, but on how many spectators watch your matches. Wrexham did exactly that. When Reynolds bought the club, its annual revenue was less than $2 million. 5 years later, it had reached $43.9 million. During this time, the team rose from the 5th division to the 2nd, but the revenue surge was by no means down to sporting progress. It grew because they produced a documentary series which Disney Plus broadcast in 70 countries. A club that nobody outside Wales had heard of became a global brand, after which United Airlines, Meta, and TikTok bought space on the kit. Inter Miami replicated the same model in just 1 year. Before signing Messi, the club's annual revenue was $55 million. After the signing, $185 million. A single player brought the club $130 million in new revenue, not because the club started scoring more goals, but simply because millions of fans of that one footballer began following him at his new club. But the huge revenue numbers in this sport also create a serious illusion, the illusion that any of it is actually profitable. The profit margin of the richest club on the planet does not exceed 10%. Most teams in the top 20 break even or make a loss at the end of the year. 2/3 of a club's total revenue goes on players' wages. A top Premier League player earns $500,000 a week. That's $27 million a year for the work of a single footballer. Multiply that by a large number of players, and you get a major club's annual wage bill of around $400 million. But when you see your players' annual payslips, don't be disheartened. New problems will be waiting for you. If a club spends more than 80% of its revenue on wages, it faces sanctions from UEFA. In England, this rule is known as the Profit and Sustainability Rules. The penalty is a points deduction in the league. Manchester City, Everton, and Nottingham Forest have all faced such sanctions over the past 2 years. A team that has honestly paid its players' wages has been given a sporting penalty for doing so. Transfers aren't any simpler. You'll also need to pay an agent's commission, which can sometimes be absolutely massive. Ricardo Regufe received $33 million in commission for a single deal to extend Ronaldo's contract at Al Nassr. On top of that come the hidden costs. Player insurance. If you've signed a star for $50 million, you insure them against career-ending injuries for the full value of their contract. Travel and logistics. A Premier League-level team flies to matches on charter flights, and a single away match in a European competition can cost the club $500,000. Over a season involving European competitions, this amounts to more than $10 million in additional costs. And scouting. A major club employs dozens of scouts around the world, each earning over $100,000 a year. They travel to youth league matches from Brazil to Senegal to find the next Messi for $200,000, whilst other clubs think he's not worth a penny. And now, for the most brutal risk in the business, relegation. If your club finishes the season in the bottom three, it is automatically relegated to the division below. A team that is relegated from the Premier League loses 80% of its TV revenue in a single season. There's even a system of parachute payments. For 3 years, the club receives financial support from the league to prevent it from going bankrupt. If the club fails to return to the top division within 3 years, your huge investments will most likely lead to bankruptcy. In 2025, Wrexham reported record revenue of $43.9 million alongside a loss of $19.5 million. Reynolds deliberately spent more than the club earned because he wanted to buy more expensive players to mount a challenge for the Premier League. If the team gets promoted, revenue will immediately increase 3- or 4-fold, and the club will be worth $1 billion. If it doesn't, the contracts he signed will come back as unpaid bills. Time to pull it all together and answer the actual question. How much money do you make if you do this right? We'll cover 3 options for this business. Option 1, a small club, an investment of $2.5 million with revenue of $2 million a year and a loss of approximately $2 million, which the owner covers out of their own pocket. The owner keeps the club going in the hope of promotion to a higher league. If successful, the value could increase 200-fold. Option 2, a mid-table club, an investment of $150 million, revenue of $90 million a year. There's no profit, as all the money goes on wages in an attempt to move up to the next level. Your potential profit: the club's valuation increases 5-fold over 8 years, as was the case with Inter Miami. Option 3. A major club on a par with Tottenham, Atletico Madrid or AC Milan requires an investment of $2 billion. Revenue of $500 million per year. Profit in a good season is $80 million. In a season without European competition, it's a $100 million loss. The owner recoups their investment through the club's valuation after 15 years. There are only 3 ways left to make the world remember your name. Start a war, run for president, or buy a football club. Football is the cheapest of the 3.